Ted Cruz's podcast last week and said this. Listen to this.
How real is the prospect of killer robots annihilating humanity?
20% likely. Maybe 10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. Wait a minute. And then I kind of laughed at that because you never know with Elon. And the first number was not horrible. 90% chance we live and they don't destroy us. But, if they do, what's happening within the next decade is alarming. But then there was this headline. It was in the Post. It was everywhere, New York Post, about violent humanoid robot snapping. Look at this in China. This is at some factory in China where it freaked out. Look at it on its alleged controller. Look at this thing for the listening audience. This thing is hanging from like a mini crane. It looks like a robot with a head and arms and so on. It's an all black robot and it's waving its arms around maniacally, like picture an attack of killer bees. That's what it looks like is happening to this thing. And it's out of control. Go ahead.
This is an enormous risk. And I think Elon puts his finger on it precisely, which is there's a class of robot that we've used for decades, right? Like in factories, pick place machines that don't represent this risk. What is this risk? This is a humanoid robot that is completely, independent in its movements and has software that can fundamentally be altered and hacked. And there is no understanding of how to create a kill switch for these things. It's not universally accepted and it's not universally developed and understood how we could do that, this risk. What is this risk? This is a humanoid robot that is completely independent in its movements and has software that can fundamentally be altered and hacked. And there is no understanding of how to create a kill switch for these things. It's not universally accepted and it's not universally developed and understood how we could do that. So that is a tremendous risk that you could root these robots, right? You could have a foreign adversary figure out that there's an entire group of robots that are deployed in this country, hack them, root them, because they all have to be connected to the internet in some way, shape, or form, and then introduce some instruction set that causes them to be extremely violent. That is 100% likely. The question is, do they do it, or do we think about it in terms of the way we think about nuclear arms, where there's a mutually assured destruction, so nobody does it? But I think Elon is right. The capability is at hand, and the more we see these humanoid robots manifest, that is probably the single biggest tail risk that it represents. It's very scary, I think.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Let me just say this, J. Cal. Yeah. It starts off, you don't hire the thing when it looks scary and it's hanging on a crane. You buy it because you see articles talking about how this is from a company called the robot's called Protoclone, created by Clone Robotics, because they tell you it's the world's first bipedal musculoskeletal android. This is a different company and a different robot, FYI. But it shows it twitching to life and kicking and moving its arms and elbows. And what they tell you is it's going to memorize the layout of your home and kitchen inventory. It's going to wash your dishes and clothes. It's going to make sandwiches. It's going to pour drinks. It's going to set the table. It's going to hold and retrieve items. It's going to vacuum, clean, shake hands, and even talk. So fun. It's like a pet that does all of your domestic chores. And all is well and good, J. Cal, until it freaks out like the Exhibit A.
Yeah, it's he's not being bombastic at all. Probably 15, 20, maybe 20 years ago now, I lived in Los Angeles and I had a friend, Sam Harris. We had the same book agent, and Sam Harris, I introduced him to Elon. The three of us used to go to dinner every other week or so at Papone's in Brentwood, and we ate some chicken parm and we talked. And this was actually what Elon was talking about with Sam a lot. Now, they're no longer friends, but they went through one evening. We were talking about all the possible ways AI could spiral out of control. Obviously, this is one of them, or something even simpler, which is, you got a lot of terrorists out there. Terrorists typically are dumb. You very rarely have a sophisticated attack like 9/11, thank God. But imagine terrorists or people with really bad intent having access to these computers and making their version of COVID, which apparently was made in a lab, according to the New York Times and the government and everybody, and Fauci covered it up. It's conspiracy theories are becoming Nobel Peace Prizes, very quickly these days.
Record time.
It's unbelievable. The time between it being a conspiracy theory and somebody win a Pulitzer is getting down to like 36 months now. It's weird. I guess journalist, right, Megan?
Yeah.
It took like 40 years for the Catholic Church to actually admit that they were, doing horrible things. And for that to
And
get
even
uncovered by
then,
invest-
only sort of.
only sort of admit it and then pay a bunch of settlements, right? 4 decades instead of 40 months. And imagine like some bad actors decide, let's see if we can put into the large language model, et cetera. How do we make a better COVID? Or what are great ideas? How do we build nuclear bombs? How do we do this stuff? We've been able to contain that information and then contain the techniques. These things are to come up with really, really great ideas. And it used to be law enforcement would read thrillers and science fiction in order to figure out, and terrorists would do this as well, because the science fiction and the authors were really good at saying, hey, here's a crazy idea for a terrorist attack, because they're trying to get ratings or make a very compelling movie, et cetera. So there have been instances where, three-letter agencies went to specific science fiction and thriller authors to have them brainstorm the stuff. This is going to be brainstorming all kinds of bad ideas and putting it in people's heads, and we're going to have to figure it out. And Chamath's right. These robots could be rooted very easily. Self-driving cars as well. And it's exactly like the situation. These two stories parallel each other. The Facebook story of growth at all costs and don't worry about the outcome because we're in competition with LinkedIn and we're in competition with Instagram and Twitter. When you get a bunch of rabid entrepreneurs globally, fighting it out, then what happens is they're like, you know what, we'll move fast and we'll break things. In this case, if you move fast and break things, we could have very bad consequences. The people who work at OpenAI joined that company. Elon funded it in order to make sure all of the code was open sourced and that they were thinking about safety and everybody got access to it so there was parity in the world. Sam Altman, in a very selfish act, then flipped it to his own personal piggy bank where he would make unlimited amounts of capital from it and made it closed AI. This technology needs to be monitored, and you're going to have companies, because they want growth, saying, you know what, we'll risk it. And that's where sensible legislation or sensible controls would make sense, at least thoughtfulness about it. And this is why David Sachs,
because
being the
right
czar of
now,
AI, is so great, because he is thinking about these issues.
But we don't even have, the thing that's disturbing about the robots is, among other things, there's no defense. A lot of us have guns, thanks to them being an advertiser in their show. I also have Byrna, which is non-lethal self-defense. It's basically like a little chemical weapon in a bullet. So you've got a bunch of different options available to you. None of that will work on the crazed robot or robots showing up at your door trying to, we have no defense at the moment to these things. And yet we're just proceeding. I don't know if it's fair to say blindly, Chamath, but we're proceeding rapidly down the lane of empowering them.